This is the Speaking of Writers podcast. I'm Steve Richards. Today we're sitting down with a poet who believes words don't just live on the page. They live in memory, in family, in faith, and in the everyday moments that shape who we become. The life we lead is part autobiography, part self-reflection, part companion for anyone navigating love, loss, belief, doubt, humor, and the beautiful mess of being human. Written over 3 years, these poems come straight from lived experience, relationships, family bonds, faith, conflict, and the quiet lessons life teaches when no one's watching. Born and raised in El Paso, Texas, today's guest writes not as an expert looking down, but as a fellow traveler walking beside us. Please welcome to the Speaking of Writers podcast, poet and author Angel Cordero.
Hello, everyone. It is my honor to be here. Yeah, Steve, you captured the life we lead there perfectly. And you also captured what I try and do as an author perfectly as well. It is very much my goal that when readers read my work, they can resonate with it. And ideally, as they read my work, I hope they're not seeing me as a first-person narrator, but rather that they're sitting there reading and going, well, I know this is what you're saying, but I would want it to say this instead. And by all means, I invite readers to go ahead and do that. Change my work to make it fit your life. That's why I called the book The Life We Lead. It's an invitation to all readers to take a look at what's on the page and go a bit further than that. So by all means, look in between the lines.
Yeah, when you say the life we lead is for everybody and anybody, was there a specific moment or person in your life, Angel, where you realized I need to put this out there, not just for me?
So I truly believe that stories in many ways write themselves, in that poets, writers, we're just merely the vessels that put them to page. So I started writing it my junior year of high school, more as a hobby. And in reality, I didn't expect it to flesh out into what it became. Though it started as a hobby just to pass time and enjoy myself and just see what I could write. But as I kept going through, I noticed that a lot of the poems had similar themes and a lot of them almost spoke to one another. And that's when I said, I may have something here. And that was pretty much the first year, the rough draft. And then the second year was understanding myself as an author and what I wanted to do. And as I went through that process, I recognized these are my stories in a way, but they're also shared experiences. And that's where I started breaking down the book. And then that third year was all dedicated to partnering with my team at Milton and Hugo and getting it published. And I am grateful to have met them and have a team behind me that understood what I was trying to accomplish, in that they knew the work was extremely personal to me, and I wanted to give it to the readers as a gift. So if I was going to look at a point in time and say that I knew for sure I needed to do this, I needed to publish it, I don't think there is that time. It was more so a moment in time where I said, I'm going to take a shot and do something a bit crazy. And I just hope the readers will be there for me. And I am grateful that they have been so far.
You have said that poetry can actually be tedious to read, even though you write it. That's refreshingly honest. How did that belief shape how you wrote this book?
Yes, so I find poetry tedious to read, as many people do, in the sense that there's a lot of hidden aspects, and you can sort of just read it and not really understand what the author intended. or the author is being too coy and throwing in too many literary tools. So my goal with this book was to play on that and say, well, what if I hid the message, but then I also told my readers, make the message whatever you want it to be. And that's where it became fun for me, where as I started feeding it to different people and having them read it and edit, and I would give it to 10 different people, and 10 different people would come back to me and say, oh, I think it means this, and I think it means that, et cetera, et cetera. And that's when I knew I had accomplished what I wanted to do, which was every poem should mean something different to everyone that reads it. And they should absolutely take something away from it that is uniquely theirs. So that was my approach. How do I use an aspect of poetry that is usually tedious in that you're trying to determine what the author means and flip that on its head and tell readers, it doesn't matter what I meant to say. What do you want it to say? Because what you want it to say is what gives it meaning anyways. The the author's intention, once we put it out there, almost falls away. The meaning tends to take on what readers want it to mean. And that was my goal, to let readers know, go for it. If you want what I thought was a love poem to be about fantasy and as far away from romance as you can possibly get, do it. So that was my goal.
This book is deeply tied to family, Angel, your parents, your brother, your faith. Can you share a moment from your life where a relationship conflict directly turned into a poem?
Um, yes. So there's actually a few moments in it. There's one poem called Dove, which isn't specific relationship, more like a collection of them, but just working on the aspect of unrequited love and how we work through it and those moments of what would I say if I got the chance to say it because I didn't say it the first time. And that's what inspired Dove. And then the entirety of the family section, all of those are dedicated directly to my family. The one I wrote for my mom, basically, a lot of people would tell her she didn't have a real job. She just stayed at home being a housewife. And for me, I would always say, I would not be able to do what I do, and I would have never had the opportunity to do what I do if my mom wasn't at home doing the hardest job on this planet,
Yep.
raising me and making sure I turned into a good man. I'm not perfect by any means. I slip up, but she instilled in me, as did my dad, the ideal of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And above all, love God and love others as God has loved you. And then there's another one there for my brother where I just referenced. There's been many moments in his life where people have tried to look down on him and or stop him from achieving his potential. And the goal with that poem was just to remind him, understand the light that is within you and how precious it is that so many people are trying to put it out. No one tries to put out a beacon that isn't shining and reminding him, keep shining. So there's many moments within the work itself that come from direct conflicts in my life. And I think if readers go through, they could probably identify most of them, but those are at the top of the list of ones that I would say were deeply inspired by relationship moments. And the final set would be the entirety of the I Knew Them Once series. That kind of follows the end of my senior year and the goodbyes that come with that, of saying goodbye to different friend groups and people that you sort of know once you graduate, you may not stay friends with them and life is going to take you different places. And then I imagined it through the lens of if I made a new friend later on down the line and they would ask me, tell me a story of people you once knew. And that would be the story.
Angel, your favorite authors range from Edgar Allan Poe to Jules Verne to Miguel de Cervantes. That's a wide spectrum. Can you point to a poem or two in the life we lead where one of those influences quietly shows up, even if readers might not notice?
You know, contradictions for sure. If they read through contradictions, and I actually have a copy of it right here, I'll go through it. In flame, in fumes, in passion, in hate, with cold, with ice, with ignorance, with pain, in the dark, in the rain, in emptiness, in vain. And the entirety of the poem just goes back and forth like that. And that's kind of playing on what Cervantes does a little bit in Don Quixote of what's reality and what Don Quixote is actually seeing.
Mm.
And that I was actually reading Don Quixote when I wrote this poem, and I was saying, how cool would it be if I could write a poem that plays on that contradiction between reality and what we wish to believe? And then there's a lot of moments where I reference nature, and all of those are kind of playing through Jules Verne writing and how often he references the forces of nature. Because in my mind, when we look through life and the world that we live in, it is impossible not to appreciate how powerful everything around us is and how oftentimes we can't affect a lot of it, but we live in harmony with it. And that's the beauty of it. So the entirety of the section that I titled The Animals references Jules Verne writing and how he uses nature as a force.
What
And
was
then Edgar Allan Poe is just present throughout the entirety of the work, as I mentioned earlier, of how do I make poetry more approachable?
what was harder, writing the poems or deciding which life moments deserved to stay private?
Definitely deciding which life moments deserve to stay private.
Mm.
Um, the poems that I wrote, I knew I wanted to write them. But then of the 99 poems that made it to the book, there's probably 60 that I cut because I said, the work is good, but that's a part of my life that I'd rather keep to myself. And finding that balance between keeping myself relatable and also separating the art from the artist. So that was far more difficult than the actual poetry writing ever was, determining which stories do I have to tell and which stories do I keep.
After sharing so much of yourself here, what is next for you? More poetry, a different genre, maybe?
So the life we lead in many ways actually kicked off what I am picturing as a trilogy in the same vein of reflective poetry. I recently worked on and published my second work. It's titled Being. It'll be ready towards the end of this month, beginning of next month. And that work is going to focus on revisiting some of those 60 stories that I said I cut from the life we lead that I feel ready to share now. And it's also going to keep expanding on the different themes. And it's shorter. It's only 50 words compared to the 99, but that is intentional because being in comparison to the life we lead is going to hit far harder. It's going to read more as an epic journey. I'm going to expand on what it means to be nostalgic, a poet, bold, in love, joyful, at peace, faithful, and hopeful. So it's going to get deeper into the emotional side of things. So that's what's coming up next.
He's got a lot to still to come. Angel Cordero's The Life We Lead isn't about having all the answers. It's about sitting with the questions, honoring the memories, and recognizing ourselves in someone else's words. If you've ever needed a quiet companion, a moment of reflection, or a reminder that you're not alone in the life you're leading, this book just might find you at the right time. It is available at Milton and Hugo, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and wherever you get your books from. Angel, thank you for joining me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my work and also a bit more of my personal life and what went into making this book.
And he's got another one coming very soon. So check that out, too, from Angel Cordero. And don't forget to subscribe to the Speaking of Writers podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Steve Richards. Thank you for watching. This is the Speaking of Writers podcast. I'm Steve Richards.